Welcome to another family engagement session. I am Mara Grujanik. I am Family Engagement Coordinator at Stevenson High School, and I welcome you to our discussion today to talk about communication strategies with your teen. Talking to teens, talking with teens is more about listening and controlling your own emotions than saying anything, right? Allowing them to talk. It's really the best strategy around your teens because they're going through so much right now, is to allow them to control the conversation and drive what is being discussed. And you sit back and listen and try your hardest not to react in extremes. But it's going to be difficult because, believe me, your teens are in the process during adolescence of pulling away from you. And that's what they're supposed to be doing. Developmentally, that's what they're supposed to be doing. So what they're doing is they're looking around them at different friends, trying on different friend groups, trying on personalities, figuring out who they're going to be as adults. What are their interests? What do they like? And developmentally, like biologically, they are supposed to be pulling away from those people who were in their lives giving them direction because they want to be independent. That's what they have to be doing. And adolescence is like from junior high, end of junior high, until about 24. So through high school, through college, is the time when they're going to be pulling away and trying to be off on their own. So you, as a communicator, knowing that that's what they're trying to do, best thing to do is to sit back and listen, try not to react, and be as collaborative as possible in your solutions. So how do you do that, right? Do you sit on your hands? Yeah, you kind of do. What you need to do first is just give them your attention. Let them know that you are there, you are present, you are listening to them, and you are trying your best to understand what's going on and what they're trying to process through. Not like a detective, but ask open-ended questions. So how did that feel? What do you think was going on? Not yes and no, because believe me, they're going to test you. I've said this before. They are going to test you. They want to know if you are going to be there unconditionally for them, because they're trying to figure out who's around them, who's in their corner, right? So you can ask questions, but not yes and no questions, open-ended questions that they have to answer with more than one sentence. They're not going to volunteer more than you ask. So tell me about what happened today. They'll say nothing. But you can, if it's an academic question that you have, if you went into Canvas and you saw what the assignment was like, you could say, hey, I saw that you were talking about this period in history or this mathematics. What did you think was the most interesting thing that your teacher talked about today? Or what did you talk about in your group today? If you don't understand what they're saying to you, ask for clarification. Find out as much as you can and let them do the talking, right? We're not there to correct them, make sure they're speaking in perfectly correct sentences. If they get emotional, we want to just be a supportive for them. We're not there in any kind of judgmental form. We're just there to listen and be supportive and really be aware of how they're feeling. They may not, if they're upset, cry, but they may be short with you. They may not say to you, they may not be able to articulate how they're feeling, but you know them better than anyone else. So you know if they're coming to you and seemingly not in the right way. And they may, because they're trying on different things, they may try things that don't sit well with you. But the best way to do it is to think about controlling your emotions, first of all, but then reflect back to them. How did that make you feel? What's going on? Because they have an internal compass that you have put in as your family. So when you talk to them, you can ask them about things and just be observant and give praise when they do things that you're like, hey, that's great. I love what you did. So they may try you, but they're trying to figure out, can I trust this person? It's not a value judgment on you. It's a developmental thing on them. So try to remember that. Try to remember listening more than speaking, open-ended questions rather than statements, and less judgment and more. You can use your questions to reflect back on them if you have a question about whether or not something was not a great decision. You know, how do you think this family feels about that kind of behavior or whatever? But you could certainly reflect and help them think about the choices that they're making in terms of whatever it is, because your goal in communication is to keep the lines open. And the easiest way to do that, imagine if you went to someone, your most trusted partner, and every time you talk to them, they reflected back to you negatively, or they reflected back to you, why did you do that? Or what were you thinking? You would probably not want to talk to your most trusted friend or ally. You would probably just want to find someone else. And so we have to remember that as we're moving from that manager role in our students' lives when they're in elementary school to that mentor role when they're adolescents, that comes with a different kind of communication. And that communication is open-ended questions, less judgment, more reflective kind of comments. Really tune into how are they feeling, what's going on, validate their feelings, even if you don't understand why they're reacting the way they are. Validating their feelings makes them feel seen and makes them feel heard. And it's really important toward building trust. Right? So when are you going to talk to them? Well, you have to be super purposeful about talking to your teens. Greet them every single day. When they wake up in the morning, hey, how are you? What's going on? Give them a hug if you're a hugger. They may go, ugh, but you know what? What feels better than a hug, right? If you are a huggy family, hug them. Pay attention to them. Pay attention if they put on different kinds of clothing, if their style changes a little bit. Follow up with them when you know that they're going through something. If they've talked about something before, I had a parent once say to me that they kept like a little notebook, a small notebook, that when their teen mentioned something that they knew was a big deal to the teen, but sort of in passing, they remembered and they wrote down so they would not forget, so that they could remember to follow up with their teen on something that they talked about so they could bring it up again. And you know, it's a time for a lot of change, a lot of schoolwork. We're all back in session. Things are moving more quickly for our teens and for ourselves. The whole world is moving more quickly now than we did in the last 12 months. Make time for fun with your teen. Remember what it's like just to have game night or watch a TV show together or listen to new music together or whatever. When you are together, sometimes do what they like to do. Ask them to plan. Give them that autonomy and that control over what the family does. Let them decide what you have for dinner, or if it's something where you're going out for dinner, or if you're not, or you're cooking something, let them make the decision. Maybe they decide what the TV show is that you're going to watch, so that they see that you see them and you're validating them and you are listening to them. That's what you want to do to build the trust that is going to continue through, believe me, through the challenging times, right? If you know that you both love each other and trust each other, even when there's challenging times when you really have to work hard to be neutral or to hear their point of view, that's what's going to take take control over that. When you say you're going to do something, do it, follow through with it. So the flip side of that is be careful what you say you're going to do, right? You don't want to say you're going to do something and then not do it. You don't want to say, yes, I'm going to be there and then not show up, or this is what's going to, the schedule is, and not have it happen. If something changes, talk with them about it. They are becoming young adults. You are building the habits of mind for them to not only understand how to move forward and continue their relationship with you, but continue their relationship with other adults. When they tell you something, even if they throw a little nugget out, try to always ask an open-ended question in response to that. Always ask an open-ended question in response to it, so that they know you're hearing them, you're listening to them. And one strategy, they always say, like, talk in a car when you're all driving. They say that that's the best time to talk to a teen, is when you're all going somewhere, you're a captive audience. But sometimes it also helps to just sit and face your teen and listen to what they have to say and not be doing anything else, and give them your undivided attention, especially in times when they come to you and ask for help. So they know that what they are going through is being seen, being heard, is validated, and is important to you as the adult in their life. So those are some tips for you for communicating with your teen. I really want to point out that if you ever have questions or troubles, or are worried about maybe something your teen is going through, or you're worried about strategies, remember that you have the biggest ally at Stevenson High School that you could ever want, and that is in your counselor, because your counselor is with you and your family through every one of your students and through the entire 4 years that your student is here. So that's the person that's going to get to know your student in their journey through Stevenson High School, because they meet with them every single year. They meet with them all the time. Students go and see their counselors constantly. And you should feel comfortable reaching out and emailing your student's counselor as well. Because what happens is you get an sort of a bird's eye view into maybe what's happening at school, and they can build a better partnership with you and your family. I want to thank you very much for your time today. We're going to continue this conversation about so I have a question. The question is, my teen doesn't really make any new friends. Is not even interested in clubs other than the organization that they're in. But your teen isn't something because they're in that organization. I don't want to say what organization it is. And maybe that's what they're into. And you have to think about your teen may only have enough time for that particular organization. What I would do is reach out to maybe someone in that organization and say, hey, or your counselor. This is a good, I would maybe reach out to your counselor and say, hey, I'm concerned about my teen. My teen is involved in this. You have to think about how much time your teen has, what kind of courses are they taking, and how much time are they spending on academics, both in school and outside of school. And then they have that organization that they're part of, right? But what you can always do is reach out to your counselor and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about friendships. If your teen is a transfer student or a freshman, they have the freshman mentor program or the transfer buddy program. That counselor then can reach out to those people and say, hey, here's a student. So you're not necessarily getting involved. You're supporting them. But you're not directly getting involved with your team. And you can have some people at the school sort of in that organization or through the counselor say, this teen may need to have someone reach out to them and invite them into some kind of a social group. So being involved in a lot of different activities may not necessarily signal friends or not friends, but it may signal, hey, this is my bandwidth right now, and this is what I'm able to do right now because I have academics that I'm thinking about, and because I have this organization that takes up my time as well. So what I would do is, if you're concerned about it, it's not necessarily how many things they're involved in, but when they're involved, what are they doing? So I would suggest that you reach out to your counselor, talk to them about how you feel about that. And they'll be able to then reach into those groups and say, hey, can you take a look? Does this student seem like they're off on their own? And how can we remedy that or help this student become more involved? Or does it seem like everything's appropriate? I hope that answered your question. We're going to talk about developing relationships with our teens next Thursday. We will not be together tomorrow because it is Friday and we don't do our family shorts on Friday. We will not be together on Monday either because it is a holiday where there is no session. But on Tuesday, we're going to talk about social awareness. Social awareness is not only super important for you to think about your student and how well do they know themselves and how much are they aware of the people around them, but it's also a competency for social emotional learning, which is really important at Stevenson High School. So we'll talk about that on Tuesday. I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. Thank you very much for asking them. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, please feel free to reach out to me. I am going to copy this link and put it in the messages to everyone. This is a link to a 3-question survey. What'd you think of this? Did it meet your needs? What do you want to hear back? I really like to ask periodically those of you who are on live for your feedback, and I appreciate it very, very much because I take it very much to heart. Thank you again for joining me today, and I hope all of you have a great weekend and have a nice day off. My name is Mara Grujanik. If you ever need anything from school, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Have a great day, and thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye, everyone.